Let's start and talk about inequality notation. The two problems that we have right there are inequalities. X is greater than or equal to 3. When we would graph this, and you learned this a long time ago, at 1, 2, 3, we would graph with a closed circle because there was a line underneath and it goes in this direction. The second one here, if here's 0, here's 1, 2, we would graph with an open circle and it would go in this direction. So this in blue is inequality notation. Well, to go to interval notation always goes furthest to the left to the furthest to the right and everything it includes. Interval notation uses brackets and parentheses. Brackets means it includes, parentheses means it does not. So in the first, x is greater than or equal to 3, well, furthest to the left, if I was to look at my graph, is 3, and it includes 3 because it's closed interval. Furthest to the right, because it has an arrow, it goes on forever, I would go to infinity, and we don't know where infinity ends, so infinity is always a parentheses. The second problem here, well, furthest to the left goes to the negative infinity numbers. Furthest to the right here is 2, so this interval would include anything from negative infinity to 2. So let's look at two different problems. I have a set of numbers from -5 to 1, and I have a set of numbers from -2 to 3. When there's two numbers listed like this, these are inequalities and there's millions of numbers in between. If I want A intersect B, this means and. Where do they overlap? So I always draw it out. So A, let's draw A in blue. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A closed circle at -5 because there's a bracket. To 1, an open circle which is a parentheses. I'll do B in red. At -2, I have an open circle, and at 3, I have a closed circle and everything in between. So and means where does it overlap? Well, it overlaps from here to here. And what are those numbers? Well, -2, but it has an open circle where it overlaps, and it overlaps all the way to 1, and that 1 is an open circle. So A and B is from -2 to 1. That's the overlap. Let me change colors. Let me go purple, and we'll do purple over here. This is or. A or B. It's the furthest to the left to the furthest to the right. So the furthest to the left is -5, and I put a bracket because it does not, or because it includes it, it's colored in. The furthest to the right is 3, and I'm also going to put a bracket because that one's colored in. So or typically has a lot more in it than the and or the intersection would. One more example here. We're going to take A, and I'm going to draw it out, so A will be blue, and it's going to go from -1 to infinity, so I'll just draw an arrow all the way. B will be done in red, and it goes from -2, which is an open circle, to 3, which is also an open circle, and everything in between. So A and B, so the overlaps, they overlap from here to here. So the interval or set notation will go from -1 to 3. At -1, I close it off because it's closed here. And at 3, it's open. The next one, A union B, which means or. So the furthest to the left is -2. And the furthest to the right keeps going and going and going in the positive direction. So there's my solution.